All right, welcome back to Dad's Guide to Thrive. You're with Israel Smith, the host, and I am very, very excited to finally, after many false starts and several attempts, catch up with a friend of mine called Mac Slone. Mac is a father of five, a grandfather of three, and has been an extraordinarily busy man through his relatively short life. He's only 50 and he's done so many different careers, I can't even begin to list them all. So I'm just going to say welcome to Mac straight off the bat, and we can start talking about what's given him such an incredible story and so many different diverse paths through his life so far. Welcome, Mac. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much, Israel. Pleasure to be here.
And mate, it's like 11 o'clock at night over there because you're in the northeast of England, and I'm, sipping a latte at 10 in the morning in Sydney time. So I appreciate you staying up late for our chat. I'm sure our listeners do as well. So mate, tell me about, how did you get to have so many diverse careers? What was the story there? And I'm just gonna real quick.
I thought you were going to ask us how did I have so many kids?
Well, that too. No, like I'm one of five, so I understand that conversation. But the part about I'm just looking like chef, aerospace and subsea engineer, army infantry, sales, care manager, security, supervisor, security. Oh my God, like there's taxi driver, entrepreneur. There's so much in there, mate. Like it must have been a bloody colourful adventure for you to have so many different careers, all by the age of 50, while raising five kids.
Yeah, it was. It all started with the army. That's kind of what I wanted to do from being like really, really young. And it was my plan to retire from the army. But as life happens, I ended up getting medically discharged, having surgery. And then it was a kind of, I wasn't academically great at school. As a child in the 70s, I really struggled with English and I struggled with spellings, and so I always had this belief that I was no good at things like that, So it was a case of, well, what do I do now with my life after I had went through like a year to 2 years of recuperating from the surgeries and that. I ended up just kind of going into what I knew, which was security, and from there it was, I had my first son, and it was with watching my father always going out to work, and that was the thing, you go out to work, you provide for your family. I'm responsible for a son now, so it was just a case of out of necessity. It's whatever come up. As you know, I'm 50, so I'm a child pre-internet and pre-mobile phone. So back then, with regards to business, unless you had a lot of money or you come from a family with money, it was very difficult to get like into a business or start a business, So you just had to, you basically did what you could do. You got what jobs you could, and I've been fortunate enough just to have opportunities come up, whereas I went into factory work and then progressed from factory work into pharmaceuticals, become a pharmaceutical trainer, and then ended up in engineering, and it just kind of progressed, and then ended up having a lot of surgeries. I had 9 surgeries. So because I don't like being out of work, if I couldn't do a job because of a surgery, what I would do is look at, well, what can I do? Right, well, I can drive a taxi. So I can't do the security work now, so I'll jump and be a taxi driver. So that's what I did. I just, as a manager myself as well, I used to say to other managers, look, if you look at a CV, you can look and think, wow, this guy's done a lot. He knows a lot. Or you can look at it the other side of the fence and think, this guy can't hold down the job. So it's different ways of looking at it. So yeah, just out of necessity, I did whatever come up and to basically pay the bills and support the family.
Yeah, and I can imagine too. I mean, there's definitely I suppose a sense about that of just getting it done, right? Like just that you just have to do it. And I know that's a very traditionally English, stiff upper lip, keep calm, carry on, all those sorts of memes that you see everywhere on the internet, right? There's very much that. But I know not much about the northeast of England, but would that be like a a cultural thing around the communities in there that you just kind of get on with the job? Like, is it a pretty working class part of England up there?
Yeah, it is. It's. I mean, I live in a place called Howden. It's next to Wallsend. It's pretty much on the mouth of the Tyne. So it was we had Swan Hunters, which was the big shipbuilding community. So a lot of people used to leave school and go straight as an apprenticeship into Swan Hunters. So yeah, it's very like a kind of industrial. We've got a lot of factories around. So yeah.
Right. And so, starting young, first child at age 20, and then another one shortly after. How was that as an early 20-year-old? Because I have to say, I had my first child at late 20s, about 27, 28 years old. And then there was about a 4-year gap between that and my second, between my daughter and then my son. And I know personally, if I'd tried to have a child at age 20, it would have been a bloody shit show, if you'll pardon the expression. Like, I just was not anything like a responsible human at that age. I'm really curious.
Well,
Like, right, I was going to say, like, when you look back on that, do you think, how the hell is this child still alive? Like, is there a certain element of that?
Well, I mean, I had an amazing upbringing. I'm very, very family orientated. I'm very, very close. I've come from a large family, and it was always something that I love being around kids. I love my cousins, and I was always if any of my older cousins had a baby, I would sit with a baby. I absolutely adore kids. So it was always just something that we wanted. So, I mean, again, I think a bit young and naive, because I had just not long been medically discharged from the army. But my partner at the time really, really wanted to have kids. And I thought, well, I'd love to have a child as well. So we had a child, and then I ended up working in the restaurant as a dishwasher, and then worked my way up to head chef in the restaurant. Bought a private house, and at the tender age at 20, with a mortgage and a child, and working in the restaurant, split shifts, and we moved away from the local area, about 15 mile away, 20 mile away, and it was very hard on me partner at the time, especially when we had with second child Stephen. And that was just like a year later. Both of them born on Friday the 13th, incidentally. Consecutive years.
Oh,
I just didn't see the warning signs as real.
I mean, you can say that now, right? The wheel has turned and life has moved on. But I imagine at the time, like, what's the universe trying to tell me? It might not have even been a thing that crossed your mind. So
exactly the same night at work. It was a Thursday, and the lads went, "Oh, I bet you should go in." I said, "No, don't be daft." I just got home after finishing the restaurant. Got home, went upstairs, had a wash, got into the bedroom. She says, "Don't bother." Straight to hospital.
Get your clothes back on. Get in the car. We're going. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And so, I think one of the things that I'm fascinated by about this story, Mac, is that there's like a grit and a determination and an inner resilience of, and I know your tag on the internet is underdog GSD, meaning get shit done. That seems to be a bit of a theme, right? When I think about the journey that you've taken so far and what I know about it prior to this chat. And I'm just curious if you can talk a little bit about where you learned that, and then obviously, when you just simply getting your head down, getting the things done, going through life, making the money, supporting the kids, doing your best as you can every day, where did you start to find that wasn't a workable strategy? Because it's the kind of thing I think that it sort of works until it stops working for a lot of men, where they just go, "Oh, I'm just going to put my head down, get shit done," and then suddenly they hit a brick wall and they're like, "Hang on, this isn't working anymore." So tell me about that. Like, where did you learn that, and then what are the pitfalls you found with it?
So from being very, very young, and I've spoke with Adam Cadu about this, and Jim Fortin, and that I used to have a voice when I was a young child. It sounds a bit woohoo and a bit crazy, but I would be outside playing with my action man, or I'd be in the bath, and there would be like, and it was an actual voice saying, "There's something you're meant to do." And it used to actually scare us when I was a child. I used to actually get like pretty scared of, because I'd stop whatever I was doing and, ooh, what was that? And I never understood what it was. And then growing up, I watched my dad going out to work. He's very, he's a very manly man. My dad, he was a scaffolder. He worked on the rigs. He ended up as estimator. He was in the TA, and so looked up to him. He's this big, muscly, big, strong guy. So that's kind of, I suppose, where the grit and this is my job. This is what we've got to do. Provide for the family. And about 3 years back, I was working, looking after kids in care for social services, looking after 24-hour care for kids. And then I helped a friend set up a business doing that, and I ended up being a manager for that guy. And I was sitting at work one day, and I was again, this voice, there's something you're meant to do. And as you mentioned before, my CV, I've bounced from whatever I could do to whatever I could do to whatever I could do. Never finding what my dharma was, never, always looking, always thinking it was money orientated, or never looking for happiness, just look, got to pay the bills, got to provide for the kids. As I mentioned before, I had an amazing upbringing. I got everything wherever I wanted. And going through TCP, there was a lot of families and there was a lot of people like what were kind of horrific stories and backstories of their upbringing, and I struggled with that. I thought, well, I wouldn't change anything. What have I been taught wrong? Why do I feel like I'm missing out on something here? Why do I go to do these jobs out of necessity, and why am I doing them when I know that's not what I want to be doing? So I sat one night thinking, well, what did my mum and dad actually teach us? And they always used to say to us, never ever get into debt. If you want something, save for it. Now, me, my brother and my sister, we've all got debt, right? Now, what I had to look at is, what did my mum and dad actually teach me? Now, I seen my mum and dad year in, year out get into debt to give us everything we ever wanted. So subconsciously, my mum and dad told me, don't get into debt, but it's all right to get into debt for your kids. And don't invest in yourself, invest everything into your kids.
Wow.
And that's subconsciously what I've done. And I was actually lying in the bath when it hit us, and actually went to my parents. I mean, my mum got a little bit triggered, not triggered, a little bit upset. She said, yeah, I've done my best. I says, Mum, you've done nothing wrong. It's just that's the lessons subconsciously that we've learned from you. And then you've got to look at this. Well, if I had an amazing upbringing, what do your parents say? I want to give my kids the upbringing I never had, or I want to give them the things I never got. Well, I got everything. So what do I do with my kids?
Right.
That's why they've got iPads and mobile phones at 5-year-old, and you start running out of Christmas presents to buy because they've got everything. So it's that kind of pressure that you put on yourself.
Right. And that's where the kind of just get it done kind of thing starts to fall apart, right? Because if you're constantly pushing and pushing to reach some, I suppose it's almost like an imaginary mountaintop where everything's going to be perfect. And you go, oh, well, I can give the kids everything I never had. So they've got absolutely everything in the world. And is that the key to happiness? Okay, fair enough. Let's keep doing that, right? Like it's a common narrative that we get fed by society, isn't it? That, when you buy more and have more and have all of the toys, then magically you're going to be a happy person and your kids will be well adjusted and everything will work out fine, But we come to realize as we get a little further along in life, that's not in fact the case.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, the good thing with my kids is that because I've got from 30-year-old down to 5-year-old, all my kids have had a different dad. So my 30-year-olds would have had the dad that I pretty much mirrored my father. My 5-year-old now is getting the dad that's saying, listen, don't chase money. It'll always run fast on you. If you're going to chase something, just be happy. That's all. That's all I put on to them now. That's all you have to do is be happy. If you're the type of person that goes out and digs up a road, and you're happy, or stack shells, if you're happy, then you've won. That's it. It's not
Wow.
about being a millionaire, and it's not about being this. If you can find true happiness, and you're happy with the job you do and the time that you have with your family, then you've won.
I love that. I also love the insight about how all of your children have had a different father in the sense that you've
Yeah.
been a different person at each stage in the journey. I've never ever considered that. And I look at now, as we said, I'm one of five too, and there was two marriages there where my dad had me and my sister. I'm the eldest. And then my youngest sister is about probably 15 years, 14 years younger than I am. And there's, I've got a full sister and then two half brothers and a half sister to kind of round it out. And the youngest three have a different mum. So that never really occurred to me that the dad that I had when I was growing up, and then because my parents split, I didn't really have him in my life constantly from about age 7 to about age 15. But that version that I got was a totally different version of the one my younger siblings got. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
look
I mean, the
back,
30-year-olds. Sorry,
oh
George.
no, I was going to say, like, when you look back at the dad you were for your 30 and 29-year-old kids, and I mean, I'm imagining, I hope you have a great relationship with them now that you can talk about stuff like this. But, like, do you look back at that and have chats with them and say, like, I was doing the best that I could and I bloody knew nothing about the world?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, my sons are me business partners now. We've actually got our own business, so
Oh, wow.
both my sons are both CEOs of our own company. But yeah, I mean, I've told them, and it's do you know what it is, Israel? It's the hardest thing to actually poke holes, as you know, the disintegration anxiety when you're going against something that you've fought so long to be. And then you realise, look, that was just a mask that I've wore to either protect yourself or fear-based, all the rest of the kind of stories and all the BS that we put ourselves on that. And I had to go and tell the lads, I said, because I watched them, my son's a heating engineer also, and my other son works in Nissan building cars, and we're just forming this company. And I've had to go and say, listen, boys, yeah, you've had a great life, but I'm telling you, I've taught you wrong. I've taught you from what I was taught, and that it's not that way anymore. It's
Mm.
it's a world of opportunity there. Find out what makes you happy and help people. If that's what makes you happy doing it, be happy. Don't go out and fix boilers if you're miserable. And if digging a road would make you happy, then go and dig the road. Do you
Right.
know? That's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And it's hard for them to understand. You, oh, Dad, what do you mean? That's not. You haven't said this. I says, yeah, but subconsciously I have,
I have
and
to
it's
say,
hard trying to explain.
yeah, I can relate to that feeling of like always having had one experience of your dad, and then they just do like a 180-degree about face, and you're like, hang on, what the hell? Like, who is this person? Right? I thought I knew my dad. It's so different. My dad did that to me twice actually before he died. The first time was I'd been, I think I'd been traveling for a while. My wife and I packed up and left town, and traveled with the kids for a couple of years, and I'd always watched him work his butt off, right? Like similar sort of generation, I guess, to your dad. They sort of, you get up in the morning, you go to your job, you just do it, even if you hate it and you don't like it at all. You sort of hate every hour you're there. You just do it for the money. You come home, you have your free time afterwards, and you think about pleasure as some off distant thing in the future, right? Like all of your enjoyment of life gets deferred to when you retire. And I remember this moment where he said, "Listen, just slow down. Just take it easy. Enjoy the time with your kids while they're young." And I was like, I had to sort of pick myself up off the floor. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, who is this man who's talking to me right now? And then just before he died, he said something really similar that just blew me sideways. I'm like, who is this man I'm talking to? Like it was a real moment of self-awareness that I think I hadn't experienced. I just want to pick up on something you
My
mentioned.
son's
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so now my sons do exactly the same. Also, my sons are 30 and they've got kids themselves. And now my 5-year-old daughter, yeah, I mean, she runs circles around me. Like, I'll say that stuff like, right, come on, Abigail, it's time for the bath. She'll say, yeah, Dad, my body, my choice. And my two
Oh my
sons just look
God,
and
at
think,
5.
5-year-old. I mean, I've been a private security contractor for years, and I've worked on places like Glastonbury as private security, and I've been able to enjoy on club doors people abusing us for like 6 hours, and I sit here defeated with my 5-year-old. Like, she absolutely runs circles around us. And both
They
my
know the
sons
buttons
look
to
at
push,
it
don't
like, with their jaws down again. We wouldn't have dared say that to me dad when we were young.
they? Right,
So you
exactly.
know, I think
Again,
you
different
know.
experience. There's something that you said a little earlier I want to pick up on just for people listening, right? You spoke the phrase disintegration anxiety. And I just want to kind of recap that for the listeners who haven't been exposed to this concept before. Like, because, a decent number of the guests that I've first brought on this come from the TCP community, from the Jim Fortin program and that group, because there's a lot of really interesting stories and a lot of people I know. But the disintegration anxiety idea is that it's this concept that when we live our life for a very long time in a particular way, where we sort of adopt habits and behaviors and a certain set of beliefs and understanding and identity of who we are, and then something happens and we decide we'd like to change that, or we decide to dig a little bit into ourselves and go, oh, well, what about this, and is that belief really true, and start to get curious and unpack all of the subconscious programming and stuff that we've brought up with. Our brain gets really confused because we're suddenly ripping the rug out from underneath all of our belief systems. And so there's this phenomenon called disintegration anxiety, where it's almost like a death of a self, almost like a mask or a version of us that we portray or that we live as. It's almost like that version of us sort of dissolves, disintegrates. And then there's a sense of nervousness because we're suddenly standing at the edge of this great unknown going, well, crap, I've known who I am all this time. I've had this set of beliefs, and then suddenly I'm stepping off into a blank slate of, I don't know who I'm going to be next. I don't know what the world's going to look like if I'm no longer operating from that old set of models. So, and that does spark anxiety a lot of the time, right? So we sort of end up going through this period of turmoil as we unmake the version of ourselves we have been and then craft the new version we want to become. So I just thought I'd kind of help outline that for the folks that are like, what the hell is that disintegration anxiety? What's all that about?
Yeah, I mean, I found myself staring out the window crying and all sorts, for just no reason, for exactly that. And for your listeners, it's kind of, if you identify as if you're a smoker, it's like one day just saying, right, today you're not a smoker. So you get all them feelings like you need a tab, and you get anxious, and it's that times 1,000, because it's like you say, it's everything that you've believe yourself to be, and then you've got your subconscious trying to trick you to get you back to being the old you when you're trying to make positive changes. Now they're all, what's going on, yeah? And so I'm staring out the window crying.
Yeah,
But it's
hilarious.
It's very tough.
When you look at it, you think like, why on earth would we put ourselves through this? Like, what's the upside? But I mean, I suppose the thing that you've come to learn, like, you tell me, what's the upside for you to go through? Because
to be totally transparent, I mean, I didn't realise that TCP is what it was. I was just listening to James Wedmore, like I say, as I was working in the care. And I remember watching like kind of Gary Vaynerchuk and Brock Johnson and all them type guys. And I thought, there's got to be something to this online stuff. There's got to be something to this. So I started kind of getting interested in watching the whole online stuff, because it's something that I had never really bothered with. And then I started getting interested in affiliate marketing and drop shipping and Amazon FBA, all that type of stuff. And I thought, hey, it's the opportunity that's out there now. And then I found that I really like helping other people, like discovering that, look, you don't have to do what you're doing there. You would be really good at doing this. So I've helped people become Twitch streamers and all sorts. And that's what the Underdog was for, was a place to where you could go and everybody is there to help each other. You know, no charge, nothing like that. Just it's a big community. Look, I'm having trouble with this. Oh, I'm good at YouTube. I can help you with this, and that's kind of what it was about. The underdog stuff, and yeah, that's that. It was just the helping, and that's when I was listening to James Wedmore, and then all of a sudden Jim Fortin come on. I thought, whoa, hold on. What's my brain been doing all these years? It was just, I thought, hold on. No wonder I'm where I am, and no wonder I do what I do. It was just, I felt so drawn to Jim Fortin. And when I joined TCP, it was just, at the time, there was absolutely no financial rhyme or reason. It was just before Christmas, and obviously I've got a lot of kids. There was no reason I should have joined that program, but I was so compelled to join it. I thought, I need to join this. And that's the biggest growth. That's the biggest thing that I've learned, that it's the self-development. I thought, well, if I'd invested in myself all them years ago, I mightn't have had to work 3 jobs a day. It's like 17-hour shifts, and I might have been able to set something up for me kids earlier and spent more time with the family instead of being away from home as much as I've been. So yeah, and that's the thing. It's the self-development. It's the just being happy. That's all I want to be now, because I've been very angry over the years. Like,
I can relate. I've been a very angry man for a fair chunk of my life, because the world should be a particular way and it's not, and so there's this expectation that's not met, and then I find myself all angry and resentful. And yeah, no, I get that. I hear that. That's taken a bit for me to heal, but I think I'd like to think that I'm a very, very not angry person these days. But there's something you said that I just think is like I always love these chats, right? Because I never quite know where they're going to go. And everyone's got such a unique story, such a different through line from their own life and their own experience. And I'm always in the back of my mind, I'm listening and I'm paying attention. I'm thinking, what's the thread that's going to tie this chat together? And the thread that I just got is when you spoke about investing in yourself as a way of helping you have the life that you want to have. Like when you really think, okay, I've come from a background of you just got to put your head down and get it done. We've labored that point. I don't think we need to go back there. But the fact that has worked for a while, and then you can reflect back on that and go, yeah, I really feel like, I've got some young kids now and I'm more present in their life. I'm not working 3 jobs anymore because you found a level of stability in yourself and in finances and whatever. But then the question does start to turn inwards. Go, well, what am I here for? And what's the bigger picture? And like that voice that was popping into your head, you're meant for something more. I find that amazing, by the way, that you just so clearly heard that pop into your head so many times from a young child.
So scary.
Right, I can only imagine. But that really is often, I think, in my experience, and as you know, I'm a men's coach, so I coach men in a similar way to what it sounds like you do. You sort of, okay, what's going to make you happy? What are the things that really light you up? And how can you re-engineer your life, or let go of some limiting beliefs, or peel away some layers of the onion to get a bit closer to who you really are on the inside? Like all that kind of stuff. But I see that in my clients, a lot of the questions are along the lines of, they're a lot of the challenges that the men face come from that unanswered question of like, what's the point? What am I here for? And as we get a little older as dads and as men, and we start to look at the things that are working and then look at the things that maybe aren't working, that's where we start to go, there's more that isn't working right now that I want to start tackling. And that's ultimately where we have to turn our gaze inward and start working out what's on the inside of us. And that piece, like investing in yourself, I'm really fortunate that I got some great advice very early on in my business career. Exactly that. Invest in coaches, invest in, business skills, invest in personal growth and development. And all of those things have helped me immeasurably short circuit and shortcut the journey that I've taken to get to where I am. But I think for the dads listening and for the mums listening and anyone who's listening and watching this, I feel like that's the through line. That's the piece here where, Mac, you've really gotten to that point where you're like, I need to invest in myself. I need to spend the time and the energy, digging inward And then as a result of that, it's almost like the kind of like a spiritual spring clean almost, right? Like where you sort of you go into what's on the inside of this vessel, and then where are the shadow areas, and what's holding me back, and what's getting in the way of me being my best version of myself. And then you start to let go of that, and you start to think differently about what does my future look like, and you start to recognize, well, I can make different choices as a dad. I can make choices to not work my ass off for the sake of the money if my priority is in fact to be really present with my kids. I mean, those sorts of things. I mean, talk to me about that, like your headspace now on that perspective.
The best thing for me is it's when we kind of say investment, like investment in myself. Now I know that being an old Mac would hear that and think investment. Well, no, I haven't got any money. I haven't got the time. I haven't got the money. I've got bills. I've got this. For your listeners, what we mean by investing in ourselves is it's placing your attention to whom you place your attention, where you place your attention. Now, I took the choice. I can sit and I can binge watch Game of Thrones on Netflix, or I can go and listen to some podcasts, or I can learn some stuff, right? Because there's plenty of absolutely phenomenal free stuff out there to learn.
Right.
Now, if you truly, truly want to make change, and it all starts with you, and if you're unhappy in your job and you've got all these beliefs, it's just it's that first little step. And that's exactly what I've done. It was curiosity. It was like, what's this whole online stuff about? Maybe this is what I'm meant to do. As it turns out, I found out that no, I'm not no good at affiliate marketing. I'm not an Amazon FBA seller. I found out them things, but it was my curiosity. And with the internet now and the opportunity, I mean, there's guys making 6 figures teaching people how to scream. Do you know what I mean? So it is truly, there's absolutely, and this is what I say to my boys. I says, listen, it's phenomenal opportunity, but you have to place your attention with the right people. Now, I stopped doing the underdog stuff for a while because I thought, right, if I was to help you, Israel, set up a business, how could I, in good consciousness, help you set up a business when after the TCP stuff, I know you're going to just revert back to your old ways of being. So I thought, hold on, there's levels that you need to do here. You have to go through the TCP kind of stuff that I went through. And I truly believe this. If I didn't go through that, I would still be doing the same things as I did back then, because I wouldn't know about all these beliefs and all the things that I was indoctrinated with. And it gives you that, like, kind of being able to step back. It's that sense of freedom. Now what I see is the world is like a big pool filled with corn flour. You've got people sunk up to the waist, you've got people sunk up to the neck, and then you've got entrepreneurs and people running about, can't keep still. If I keep still, I'm going to sink. And that's what it's like. And I keep saying, no, man, step out of the pool. Just step to the side. Stop your world. Slow down. You've got choice. Just stop. Place your attention where you want it, or with the right people, and see what happens. See what becomes possible. And as you know, Israel, the things that you can accomplish, and once you get out of here, once you get the overbearing big brother who's always right, who's always there to protect you, right or wrong, once you can quieten that, and you may start making your choices. Because you always think, I'm the one in control, but as you know, that's not always the case.
No, we're often, I mean, for those of you listening rather than watching, Mac's pointing to his brain. So he's talking about like the overbearing big brother is like the subconscious programming, and I suppose what I kind of think of as like the ego self, like the little self, the part of us that is sort of purely trying to keep us safe all the time and trying to keep us protected from all the big, bad, scary saber-toothed tigers of the world, So it's so awesome. And I mean, I should also point out too, this is not a paid endorsement of the TCP program. I
No, no,
do.
no, no,
I, but
not at
it's one of
all.
those things. It's just so it's so remarkable, right? Like it's such a powerful program. And for those of you who are listening who have never heard of it, know nothing about it, I mean, the short version is it's a personal development course. It invites you to start thinking differently about yourself, about your time on the planet, about the energy that you bring to what you do. And as you say, Mac, it starts with where do we place our attention? You know, we place our attention on the things that we want as opposed to, you know, and that can be positive things rather than placing our attention on negative things. And we start to see the world shift and our life experience totally transform when we place our attention on what we want to bring into our life. And then when we start to recognize that we're actually in charge of our thoughts and we can control what it is that we think about, and then we can start to undo some of the subconscious programming, we can build new habits, we can take a whole new perspective on things like, you know, personal responsibility and integrity and relationships. Like it's a really holistic gig, and it does, if you let it, it can completely transform your life. And it starts, as Jim says, from the inside out. Like it's literally about reconnecting to the inside of who we are as people, and then letting, like, almost sort of in a way, letting all the old crap fall away so we can get closer to that inside version of us and make sure that that's pointed in the right direction, and then just let that express outwards and then help us shape our life from there on.
Yeah,
So
I mean the big thing is just reaching out as well, Israel. I mean, as you know, us big manly men were like, they bottle things up, and I've got this, and you haven't. You haven't. I went through a year of therapy for anger management, and because again, I got this, I can handle this. You know, it's my job. I'm the big protector. I'm here,
right.
and you just can't. And that's why, I mean, people like yourself, the courses you, the people you help, it's when you bottle things up. When I say place your attention with people, there is help out there. There's people like yourself, your good self.
Yeah.
Don't keep it to yourself. You know, connect. And that's it. It's just taking that first step, and the people will be blown away what becomes possible and what opportunities is out there. And because I've been in that doom and gloom, I've been in that, you know, where you think there's got to be more to life than this, and you're exhausted and you're angry and you're depressed and you've got nobody to turn to. You can't go to your dad because my dad's the big, brave, roughy, toughy who done it. I can hardly go to my dad and say, "Oh, Dad, you know, I'm finding this tough," when he done it. So there was always that belief of like, "Oh, well, I can't go whinging to me dad saying, Dad, you know, well, you have the kids."
Right.
But yeah, just
Right.
reach out to people.
It's so true. Like I just can't emphasize exactly that point enough, Mac, that there is always a new way of looking at things. There's always a new path, you know, and I know firsthand exactly what you've said, that it's really, sometimes you find yourself at the bottom of a bit of a hole in, like, you know, metaphorically, you feel like you're sitting at the bottom of a well and there's a ladder right there, but you just can't see the ladder and you just don't know how to get out of the well. And then someone comes along and says, "Hey, did you know that you can stand up and you can walk 4 steps sideways and then there's a ladder, and then, you know, I'll climb with you and you can climb out of this hole." Like, it's so true. And I mean, I feel like when I look back at my own experiences with depression and anxiety, the pivotal moment was when, first of all, I opened up enough to my stepdad to say, "I'm not coping." Like when I admitted that there was something wrong, rather than being in self-denial and self-delusion that I was fine, I got this, you know, like you say, I've all got it all together, I'm the manly man, right? But when I admitted I just didn't quite have it right, I wasn't able to figure this problem out on my own, that was the moment that everything shifted, because then I was open to getting help. I was open to seeing professionals. I was open to kind of exploring other ways of approaching my life. So yeah, it's just so powerful. And I feel like if that was the one thing that these conversations in Dad's Guide to Thrive helped make available, is the sense that, you know, every man that I've spoken to so far, we've all had really dark, really challenging times in one way or another. You know, we've all had very, very different experiences. People from all over the world, people from the UK, from America, from Canada, from New Zealand, from Australia, all had really diverse experiences. But the fact is, it's normal to face challenges. What's not normal is to think that you're an island, and to think that you're the only person who's ever faced challenges, and to think that you're the only person who can get you out of it, and that somehow you're less of a man if you have to ask for help. It's absolutely not the case, right?
Yeah, yeah. I learned that me pearl. I mean, I ended up in a heap, not 12 foot from where I'm sitting now. I ended up in a heap on the floor. Just I couldn't breathe, panic attacks, and it was just it. Again, it was because I just buried stuff and buried stuff and buried stuff until one day. I mean, it was over something stupid as well. It was actually at a barbecue. It was me brother. Says, tell us to flip a burger. I turned something around. I was a chef, and I upended the barbecue, and I just flipped out and ended up in the sitting room, and I couldn't breathe, and
Wow.
the emotional bucket was just so full, and
Yeah.
I didn't see it creep up because I'm happy-go-lucky Malcolm, the life and soul of the party, and all of a sudden now me older brother says, you're scared, is there, like, and that's when
Yeah.
they says, listen, you actually need to go and see somebody because, I couldn't breathe. I was, like I said, I was grasping my chest and I was in a right mess.
Yeah. And it's like that. And I think, the last 18 months, 2 years has brought a lot of that to the surface for a lot of people, because we haven't really realized just how much of an internal load we're carrying until something trips that valve and suddenly we explode. And sometimes, like you say, and I've done the same thing, like where you flip out, you tip something over, or something physical as an outburst, as an expression of anger or some sort of release. And I mean,
Yeah,
there's no judgment, right? Like, it takes all sorts, but I really, really hope that people listening to this can sort of recognize that if it doesn't get to that point, that's actually good. You don't have to let
yeah,
it build up to the point where you blow your top, because the risk is,
yeah.
and I mean,
I
we
think
shouldn't
that's
be
the
laughing
scary
about
thing as
this.
well because it does sneak up. It really does sneak
Right.
up, and you'll think, it's okay, it's all right, I've got this, and it'll be this just a little thing after a little thing after a little thing, and before you know it,
Yeah, you
and
blow
it
your
does
top, right?
just go.
And
Yeah,
that's the issue where I look at it and I go, socially, men have a responsibility to be proactive on this work. We have a responsibility to really start to look at ourselves more closely and bring some more self-awareness into the picture, because we're like 3 times more likely to die at our own hand by suicide. The vast majority of domestic violence is perpetrated by men against women, but on top of all of that, it's men who hold most of the levers of power in terms of making the planet a better place for everybody to live, and delivering more equity and solving challenges like poverty and climate crises and food supply and power and all that sort of stuff. And you think, like, we have a responsibility, we really do. And it doesn't mean we're broken if we have these challenges. It means we're human. It means we're normal. But what's not
yeah,
normal is to think that we can live on a planet that is utterly connected digitally as well as energetically, and think that we're separate from that and that we can get everything done on our own. Like, that's just not normal. That's not that's not a working model.
yeah. Yeah, I was talking to my sons the other day, and I was saying that there's a couple of different people. I was talking about Adam, I've talked a lot about Adam could do as well, and he's is I says to my son, I says, well, what was the first lesson that you learned? He says, what's the first lesson you can remember learning? And I mean, he was like, well, was it tying my shoelaces? I says, no, go further back. He says, I don't know, Dad. I says, well, your first experience of life is trauma, cold, loud noise, bright light, and what do? You cry, and then the very next thing that happens is you're comforted. So your very first lesson is when I cry and when I'm upset, I get comforted. So I was saying some people in life, they'll take that on with them and they'll use that to other people as a form of kind of manipulation, or you'll get the other people that say, or gravitate to the love. Oh, well, I like this love thing, so I'll just give love and I'll be nice and I'll be kind and I'll share, and So I say to lads, you've got to be careful of like your kind of pity. But there's a difference between pity, like oh, I'm not going to say this because it just sounds like I'm whining and I'm whinging. There's a difference between actually communicating with your partner or someone like yourself or a brother or sibling or mum or dad. Than there is. It's not pity. It's not like, oh, I'm whining. It's, listen, if you're having them thoughts, if things are tough and you're having them thoughts of there's got to be more to life than this, and that is the start. That's your start point. That's your starter for 10. That's the little warning signs. Listen, maybe I need to have a chat with someone, because if I'm thinking that, then I'm not happy, or I'm putting myself under undue stress and pressure. Do you even need to be putting yourself under that pressure? Is the biggest question. Is this pressure you're putting yourself under that is just a perception? Which we generally do. Which I've done that such a lot of times throughout my life. I need 5 jobs a day.
Yeah, wow. So look, I've really enjoyed our chat, Mac, and I want to sort of bring it to a close, partly because it's pushing up to midnight at your end, and partly because I want to sort of, keep these a little concise. Otherwise, we'd be here for hours and hours, and no one would ever listen because it'd be a bloody marathon session to the podcast. But I wanted to just check in with you about, from everything you've learned and from the adventures you've had through all of the many jobs and 5 children across like a 25, 30-year span of time, for any dads who are struggling, or for any dads who are just like you say, asking that question, is there one thing that you've learned that you could say, yep, I think that would be the point? Like you said, recognize the starting point, but what's like the first action, or the action that's going to help move the needle the most as far as men being able to find that thing that helps them be a little bit more themselves, a bit happier? Or, as I like to say, what would be the one thing to thrive?
Stop. Stop. That's me thing. Just stop. You have choice. You have options. Even though you don't think you have, and you're in your own little pit of despair and everything's going, you have choice. Just stop. Slow your roll. There's choices there. There's people to help. It's all up to you where you place your attention. Place your attention with the right people and you're unstoppable.
I love it. Let's wrap it up there, Mac. I think that's a perfect way to round out the chat, mate. Thank you so much for staying up late for this conversation and for sharing your wisdom and your insights and your incredible life adventures. And I'm just so grateful that I can have these conversations with you and with other people like you, because I feel like this is really, it's just a beautiful thing to be able to share with other men, just to go, it's really normal. It's normal to feel shit. It's normal to have challenges and to feel like, how do I get through this next 24 hours? It's normal to feel like we've got the weight of the world on our shoulders, because socially and society sort of gives us that impression that we need to do that. But I think you're right. I think just push the pause button, press stop, take a breath, take some time, get quiet, get still, and then think about, all right, if I had a completely free kick here, what's the next choice I would make to get me out of this, or to change the story a little bit?
Yeah. That's all it is. It's where do you place your attention? Who do I listen to? And that's the start. That's the first foot on the ladder. Perfect.
All right. Now, I'm going to say thank you again for joining me. It's been such a delight. I'm going to have details in the show notes for people that want to connect with you and learn more about Underdogs and what else you've got going on in your world. But thank you, Mac, and everyone listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of the episode. And by all means, send us any questions you've got, anything you'd like to hear us talk about. and we can catch you on the next episode. Thanks, Mac. I'll see you later.
Thank you, brother. Thanks.